Well, we're excited to have you here with us for our Impact Talks, and we're going to be talking about different partnership and collaboration opportunities with UW-Madison, specifically focused around recruitment and hiring, around research, and then, of course, professional development as well. So the three of us are going to kick off the conversation about recruiting, and we have about 20 minutes to do so. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about how to successfully navigate the recruiting landscape here. My name is Jamie Marsh, and I'm the privilege of serving as the Director of Career Services for the Wisconsin BBA program. And I'm also joined by two industry partners.
I'm Kevin Nelson. I'm a Senior Fellow with the Bemis Company.
And I'm Rebecca Verhulst, Associate Director of University and Diversity Relations with Covance.
Perfect. So the purpose of our time with you today is what we want to do is really spotlight our two partners that we have. We feel that they've done a really great job of mastering the recruitment and hiring process at UW-Madison. And so they're going to share some best practices and tips with all of you for how they've kind of managed relationship building, how they've branded themselves, created awareness amongst our students in order to successfully hire our students for co-ops, for internships, and then full-time hires, and potentially alumni as well. So basically, before we dive into the conversation about the firms, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about recruiting at UW-Madison, just so you have context for the landscape here. So as you all know, we are a very decentralized campus. However, I would say within our career services offices in partnership with the Office of Corporate Relations, we partner a ton and we try to coordinate as much as we can to make the recruiting and hiring process for employers as streamlined as possible. And so the decentralized process is valuable in our eyes because it allows us to provide really kind of critical, specific consulting and advisory to both students and employers. But again, we know employers a lot of times are coming to us saying, we don't necessarily hire by major. We're looking for specific skills. We love badgers. We want to hire more of them. How do we make this work? And so we have a group called the Career Services Council. And it's a group of about 26 different units on campus that comes together on a monthly basis, and we talk about key employer partnerships. And again, the goal of that is to try to break down barriers to make it more seamless for all of you. So how can you recruit at Madison? Well, there are two things to sort of highlight. Number one are the recruitment avenues. So traditional types of recruiting, such as job boards. So posting your jobs on a system like BuckyNet, which is a campus-wide tool where you can post a position and promote it to every student on campus that has an account. You can do the same thing through MyECS, which is an engineering-specific tool. If you so choose, you could actually attend one of our 4 large career fairs we have each year, 2 in the fall semester, 2 in the spring, along with a number of niche fairs. If you want to come and do on-campus interviews, many of our offices will gladly host you at no cost to come and actually interview our students on site. And that provides a great opportunity to build relationships with career services, but faculty, staff, and other folks as well. If you can't make the trip, we also offer various virtual interviewing types of products. And then we also have the Badger Bridge platform we talked about to really promote opportunities to alumni. But that's not enough. So again, we offer a ton of opportunities to get in front of students to build the awareness, such as case interviews. We do mock interview sessions. We offer workshops. Some of us have courses where we're teaching career development content, and we invite employers into those classrooms. Sometimes our student organizations are looking for guest speakers, things of that nature to talk about job functions, industries, things of that sort. So UW-Madison offers a lot, okay? So what I'd like to do is turn the panel over now to speak with Kevin and Rebecca a little bit more about their companies and how they've leveraged some of those engagements to be successful. So what we're going to do is we'll start with Kevin. I'd like to ask each of you to just give a personal intro, tell us a little bit about your company and the hiring needs your company has, and then how have you successfully navigated the recruiting process at UW-Madison? Kevin.
Hey, I work for the Bemis Company, and if you're from Wisconsin, you might know us, but there's a good chance that you don't. We employ 5,000 folks in the state of Wisconsin, so we're a fairly large employer. But our name, our brand, isn't really identifiable to most of us as consumers. So we have to work a little harder maybe in the recruiting process. One of the best things that we've come up with is to really try to promote Bemis as a company. We make flexible packaging. So we all interact with that as consumers every day, so we all can identify with that. So we try to emphasize that in our recruiting efforts.
And I'm with Covance. I won't ask anyone to raise their hand if you've heard of Covance, because I might be embarrassed if only half dozen of you do. We also have a hard time with our brand. So we have 3 main segments of our organization: drug development, nutritional testing, in chemistry and lab diagnostics. We focus in those STEM disciplines, and we are recruiting at the internship level, student mentorships, job shadow opportunities even, as well as full-time recruitment. And I really feel like, you know, for many years, we felt like we were sort of in this chicken or the egg situation. We didn't go to career fairs because there weren't really a lot of science students there, and I don't know if a lot of science students went to career fairs because there weren't a lot of science employers. So we really had an opportunity to partner with colleagues at the university to put together a pretty strategic and focused plan, which included the career fair, but it also included a number of other things. So what I think is important about that partnership is that it's been multiple touch points. It's the career fair plus, fill in the blank. And it's with target student populations, and it's over multiple years. And so what's different now about that approach is I feel like students are coming to the career fair, they're coming to information sessions, not to learn about who Covance is or what we do, but to have a conversation about who Covance is and what we do, because they've already heard of us.
Great, thank you both so much for the introduction. So to kind of follow into a few of those topics in a little bit more detail, Kevin, can you tell us, you know, we know company brand recognition is such an important part of a successful recruitment process, as you alluded to. How have you promoted your organization's brand, specifically your identity and your opportunities successfully at UW-Madison? And maybe you can speak to the engineering relationship that you help lead.
Yeah, in particular, you know, we view UW-Madison as a world-class university. It's a local state university, so it's really hard not to take advantage of all the opportunities that you have here to make connections not only with students but with faculty and staff as well. One of the obvious things that we all know about are the use of internships and co-ops. And that's a great avenue in which to get to understand and know individual students. But the important thing that we have to do as a company, and we all should have to do as companies, is to make that co-op experience just amazing for the student. And to do that, you have to treat them like a professional. If they're a sophomore, you might say, hey, they don't have enough background, whatever, but you still have to treat them professionally and give them a job and make it be a challenging job and give them a little bit of help. The other thing that you can do during that time that they have with you is to really open the world to them, and we try to show them opportunities, for example, for engineers that they have to maybe diversify their career path, to go into marketing, to go into sales, to go into management applications. And maybe that's the beginning for them to start thinking about what life would be like down the road. And by doing that, the identification of our brand, the Bemis name, with an amazing co-op experience is very valuable, because a bad co-op experience gets passed around, that information exchanges so fast nowadays that it's hard to overcome that sort of thing. I have a son that had a terrible co-op experience, and for him it really damaged, you know, his view of that company and with his friends as well. So that making use of the opportunity to promote your company very positively through a co-op experience is you know, just a paramount thing to really get your brand, make your brand identifiable within the student community.
Great. And just from a data point on campus and the business school, we actually tracked our students who reported post-graduation plans. 35% of them actually converted from an intern to a full-time hire within the company, and they accepted their offer actually in most cases before they actually came back to campus. So using that internship or that co-op, as Kevin was mentioning, as the pipeline builder, we're seeing that become more and more common. And for employers who can think about early access, first and second year students, how do you engage them and build that pipeline over time? We would love to consult with all of you about that, because we think that's the future of recruiting on campus. So directing a question now to Rebecca. So as organizations who strive to recruit a diverse pool of applicants across UW's various schools, colleges, and majors, how have you successfully navigated relationship building with career services, key faculty, staff, and leaders on campus?
Yeah, great question. And it really is with all of those individuals and parties that you mentioned. So partnerships spanning from, you know, curriculum advisory boards. I sit on the CAL's Board of Visitors, and so working and collaborating with faculty career services is an amazing starting point to help navigate all those other relationships. But then from a brand awareness, it's, you know, the social component, and it's physically being present on campus. So you can't, I think you need to have both. You can't just do one or the other. You can't do everything virtual. And I think you probably miss an opportunity if you're only considering the physical components like the career fair or the information session. I think it's a healthy combination of the both. And we really focus on anything we can do to be a resource to the student. So to Kevin's point, you know, internships. Internship is an opportunity to have a hands-on experience that complements your education. So how can we expand the walls of a classroom beyond this campus and into industry, into the community? And I think when you do that, in the process, you build brand, you increase student knowledge and perspective, and you're also, almost every time, you're uncovering new opportunities for partnership because your network is expanding. And so we do that as much as we can. We try to be a resource. What sort of topics or experiences are the students looking for that are going to help make them more marketable in the career space? And we try to provide that as a resource with our partners.
So it sounds like to be successful, being involved in the development of the students and the relationship building early kind of helps them then cultivate their skills so they're ready to go when they're looking for internships and full-time positions with all of you. And again, there are engagement opportunities for all of you if you want to get more involved on campus pre the recruiting process to really, again, help with that brand awareness, but also help the students kind of learn the skills they need to navigate that really challenging and scary process in some cases. So before we pause and open it up to all of you for questions, if we were to ask you kind of one piece of advice that you would give to members in the audience, if they're thinking about either building a recruitment process here at Madison or kind of mastering it like you have, what would that piece of advice be?
For us, I think one of the most successful things that we started was to supplement the professional recruiters with what we call a campus captain. So we pick a discipline like engineering and select a person, oftentimes an alum of the university, and make them responsible for the connection from a professional standpoint with the students. And we tried to make that be a long-term commitment. So year after year after year, there is this person that's identifiable. You see them at career fairs, at info sessions, at campus events, at professional society meetings, sponsorships, that sort of thing. And that continuity, I think, is very, very valuable. And that, as much as anything, has been like a differentiator for us. You get to understand the students. You kind of get to know who are the stars, for example, and that continuity is I think, very underrated. You might look at campus recruiting as it's a arduous, maybe 5 or 6 weeks in the fall and spring for the professional folks, but by giving that role to a discipline-specific person to augment those professional recruiters has been very valuable for us.
And I think for us, I would say success isn't dependent on any one or two events or approaches that we've taken. It's really a combination of a lot of little things lined up next to each other. So but all of them really are focused back to that professional development. What can we do to help a student succeed? How can we help them understand what their potential options are after university? Understand the difference between a major and a skill set, right? So even just helping with those languages and practice before they get out into industry, into the real workspace. We always call it, how do we get them Covance career ready, right? But those skill sets can be applied anywhere to any one of your organizations. So I think if we really focus on helping them understand their potential and their vision for career, post experience at UWMadison, we're going to do that while we're wearing our Covance t-shirt, and we're going to hand out our Covance pens and probably some sort of collateral. And I think over time then we're building credibility, we're building brand, but we're doing it not by coming to ask. We're doing it by building the relationship, which is really important. And then recruitment just becomes the natural outcome. So it's always the goal, and it always ends in the outcome if you use those paths to get there. And I would say that our partners at the university really help make that a reality, because it's a big space to navigate without the partners.
Great. Thank you both so much for sharing your tips and your feedback and your best practices. So just a quick note before we open it up to maybe 1 or 2 questions from all of you. If you are eager to get started with recruiting at UW-Madison, there is a link. It's very easy, careers.wisc.edu. It's up in the presentation as it's rolling too. You actually can go there. There's a place for employers, and actually it will allow you to connect with any one of our career services offices to start the conversation about recruiting. If you're kind of confused and you don't know where to start, you can always start with the Office of Corporate Relations, of course, or you can reach out to any one of us and we'll get you connected to the right people. And then today from 3:30 to 5 back in Varsity Hall, we will have our different career services offices set up so you can come in, ask questions, talk to people from each unit if you want to get some business cards to get started. And of course, we'll have representatives from Bemis and Covance to speak a little bit more one-on-one if you want to know more specifically how they built those relationships with our campus. So thank you. And what I'd like to do is just open it up to maybe 1 or 2 questions from all of you. Yes, how about in the back first?
I'm interested in learning more about co-op experiences and how we would go about setting those up.
Okay, the question was about how do you kind of build a co-op experience and how do you build it on campus? Kevin, do you want to take that?
Yeah, the best way to build co-ops, you go through a recruiting process very much like you would for full-time employees. You have to treat them like full-time employees, and the reputation that you gain by giving a very successful, very meaningful co-op is the most valuable, probably, piece of propaganda that you can have within the student community. Because like I said before, it's very easy to destroy your reputation just as much as it is to enhance it.
And just to add to that, in some of the different schools and colleges, we do have systems set up for credit, for example. So if a student needs to be away for a semester to complete the co-op, the school or college can work with you to make sure that the students are kind of approved or validated to be able to do that for insurance purposes and other things. So happy to talk with you, but the process of posting and interviewing is very similar to that of an internship. And then one final question before we conclude. Yes?
Jamie, can you give us some feedback from students who had participated, let's say, in Shadow Day?
Sure.
That was really impactful for them. What's a well-done Shadow Day?
Sure. So the question is, what's a well-done shadow experience? So generally what we hear is that students want to come in and they want to learn, what does the company do that I'm actually talking to? And most importantly, what is the role that the person I'm actually observing do? And so we've seen some employers set up shadows where it's more of a conference style. They're kind of being talked to and being exposed to a bunch of different areas, but they're not necessarily seeing it firsthand. So the more real you can make that experience through a case study, if for some reason compliance does not allow students to see what you're working on, that would be one way so that they can actually experience firsthand what a person in that role does, or to have them literally sit alongside maybe a Badger alum doing the role so that they can observe their calls, their conversations, the analysis they're working on. We hear that that's the best feedback. Those students then also tend to have the most interest because they're the most familiar with what the role is. The biggest challenge for employers in that space is growing the pipeline. How do you keep in touch with a student who does a shadow first or second year to cultivate them for an intern and then a full-time position? So I would say, I would challenge all of you to think about that because I think that's an area where we can again consult with you and help you to make sure that you're getting the most out of your investment here. Great. Well, thank you all so much for letting us share our insights, and we'll turn it over to